Hey everyone, Rarity Dash here. Time for another Patreon sponsored blind reaction. And this one comes to you courtesy of Crimson Melody, who has requested that I react to another Man-at-Arms video. And it is in fact the Man-at-Arms video that I'm the most eager to see. It's the RWBY one, and obviously I'm a huge RWBY fan. And yeah, because of that, really excited here. Probably would have got to this one eventually on my own, but because of Crimson Melody and Patreon, I'm getting to it right now. So yeah, we're making Weiss's Murdernaster, and that's gonna be exciting. I mean, these guys always do amazing work, but seeing them make something from RWBY, something iconic from RWBY especially, that's gonna be just great. I mean, yeah. And Murdernaster, probably a good choice because it's pretty doable. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, making a realistic Crescent Rose, that would probably be a bit too much work, a bit too much. I mean, it'd be a real challenge. I mean, I'd like to see that, but just that would be a huge undertaking for these guys, I think. And Murdernaster is a much easier way to go. Though you still gotta like find a way to put all that revolver stuff in there, and yeah. It's by no means is this a simple weapon, but it by RWBY standards, it's at least a bit more, yeah, just a bit better than the alternatives. I mean, like Crescent Rose or Gamble Shroud or just any of those other ones would have been a lot more work. This one, though, it will be cool, I think, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing the end result and the process and all this good stuff. Should be awesome, so let's just go ahead and get it started. Here we go. Yeah, anything RWBY they're saying. Well, some people are specifically saying Weiss. That's cool. Yeah, a lot of people are specifically saying Weiss. They probably realize that that's the one that these guys can actually do. No Crescent Rose. Well, this is gonna be good. Ami presents.
I'm Matt.
I'm Carrie.
We are the Stagmer Brothers, a Baltimore knife and sword. We're going to be building some of your favorite weapons. Some weapons that you've never seen before.
This is Man-at-Arms, Reforged.
Here we go.
Ever since we began the show, you guys have been begging for a RWBY build. There's a lot of really complex weapons, and most of them are really cool, and they're kind of hybrid weapons that change and do multiple things. The one we chose to start with is Weiss Sneeze.
Start with, so that means there's more coming?
A sword / revolver that shoots elemental dust that does all kinds of different
Well, you
stuff.
can't really make it do that.
It's hard to figure
So.
that out.
Yeah.
What I'm going to start with is drawing the flanges that have to be engraved. Carrie wants to do it first on the CNC engraver to just trace in
You
those
gotta get
lines,
that
and then
fine
Bob can
detail.
go in and cut them much deeper by hand. Ilya's going to forge the blade. It's going to have a lot of different elements to it, but for now, let's get to drawing. Alright, I got the engraving. Looks awesome. So this will be the line drawing
That
that
does look
Carrie's going
awesome.
to work from to do the engraving. Now let's go ahead and just draw the flanges real quick.
Cool.
What we're going to do, since we're forging this piece from a 1-inch piece of square 1080 steel, I'm going to be using the lathe with a center drill to set a hole in the back side of the bar that's going to be forged into the blade on this rapier. The bolt will go down inside of the cylinder of the sword and will pull this blade into place. The reason for that is that we don't have a long tang because we've got a cylinder there that's got to be able to rotate and it has to be able to break open. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this on the lathe, drill that center, drill down into it to take the material out, and then after Ilya's finished forging, I'll do the tapping. If I do it ahead of time, it's possible that the threads could be warped from the forging.
Oh,
To forge our rapier blade,
There we go.
Ilya's going to start from some round stock. He's first going to square it up, draw out his taper, and then start beveling. Even though this blade may seem to be quite simple to forge, it's kind of tricky. He's got to start from a square cross-section up by the guard and taper it out to a diamond. So he's going to do some of this on the power hammer, then move to the anvil and lay in some of those bevels by hand. I'll have to then true everything up on the grinder.
Cool. And they gotta get that blade then.
I'm going to be using the plasma table to cut the side plates for the sword. They actually are structural in this piece. They're going to hold the entire assembly. I'll have to cut and put a pivot into one, and then the locking mechanism for the entire thing will come in through the backside of the pommel to hold everything in place. I'm going to start by cutting 4 of these sections. Then once we get them finished, we'll clean them up, we'll engrave them, and we'll start assembling the entire sword.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely coming along there. Yeah. Starting to look like a sword. These guys definitely know what they're doing.
Okay, for our ruby sword build, you can see that Carrie's gone and cut these side plates out on the plasma cutter, and they still have a little bit of a rough finish on the outside surface. So I'm going to go ahead on our 180 grip belt here. I'm going to go ahead and start to smooth them out a little bit in order to get them ready for the next stage of finishing.
Cool.
While Carrie's figuring out the rest of the machining,
I'm not just lazy, I'm super lazy.
I forged out the blade.
Somehow I
Now,
doubt that.
I had to take great care of not squashing the hole which will attach itself to the rest of the mechanism. So I left it
Doesn't seem like a job
1
for
inch
lazy
square.
people.
This transition is a little bit awkward. When the angles are so steep, beveling a blade, you don't have enough force to move the material in on itself, and you're just pushing your billet to the side, skating on the angle. This gives Matt more material to show his skill in making a nice transition between a square and a standard diamond.
With the blade now forged, I've been able to start grinding. All I've done at this point is trued up the perimeter. From here, my next major goal is to go ahead and smooth out the transition from our square gun barrel shape into our blade shape. You can see right here I got some material I got to remove. Ilya's already established the nice diamond cross section and the bevels by hand hammering. So it's really going to make my job easier. I'm just going to follow the lines that he's already put into this blade, true everything
Again,
up,
we have an
we'll be able to
Ilya
build
working
the
on a
feature.
show that actually
But
has an Ilya
to
in
do
it.
that, we're going to have to make sure Carrie threads this hole that he drilled earlier, because if we tried to do that after heat treat, we're just going to break the tab right off because this material will be too hard.
I'm going to be tapping this hole. It's 5/8/11. I've got a brand new cutter. Got some tapping oil. Tap Magic does a really good job. And the 1080 that this was made out of, Ilya's heat cycled down to make sure it's as soft as possible for me. And I've run a correct size reamer down through it, so I know I've got the proper clearance. I put a little extra oil at the top of the piece. And what happens is, as the cutter goes down, it'll pick up a little bit of that oil and take it down into the hole with it as it goes. It's going to give me a pretty big grade 8 bolt that's going to be pulling this blade up into the barrel section.
Now that the blade has been ground most of the way to shape, Carrie has the threaded section added. It's time to heat treat. He has to start by getting the thicker part heated up first. Once that's the temperature, he'll flip it around, get the rest of the blade to heat, and then move to the oil for the quench.
That's already cool. Yeah.
Alright, at this point our blade has been rough ground. It's also been heat treated and tempered. You can see it stayed pretty nice and true. But I got a little bit of edge wandering, and that's from my grind. Normally you just see me eyeball my edge straightness, but I want to show you guys a little technique you can use to make sure your edge doesn't warble. And that's just by clamping it in a vise, using a file, and skating along the edge. Now, obviously the blade is hard, so it's not going to really bite in a lot, but it'll just grab those little peaks. It'll do a good job, make everything nice and flat, and then I'll move on to doing the rest of the grinding and polish this thing out.
Okay.
The engraving on the side plates is going to be something we're going to either do by hand, or maybe we'll do a deeper cut with this machine later on. But initially, so we can see what we're doing and leave it as a permanent mark on the surface, I'm going to use a diamond scribe. I've taken a small diamond tip out of one of my regular engraving machines. It's spring loaded. It's going to go down, scribe across the surface of this piece, and the diamond will leave a deep gouge, leaving our entire pattern on the surface of the piece.
It looks awesome.
Matt will now go to the grinder and blend the transitions from where the material was already square into the section where Ilya has forged the blade.
Now I know you guys are used to seeing Ilya do most of the engraving by hand, which is excellent. We all love that work. But there are a lot of different flanges. Each one has to be engraved on 2 different sides. So we're gonna do this using a pneumatic hand engraver. Bob studied and learned how to do this. It's gonna be a little quicker than doing it by hand. Showing a
Cool.
whole new process
Gotta
you guys haven't
save
seen.
some time.
Should be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. Oh, wow.
So the part that I'm going to be making on the lathe is fairly simple, but it's pretty crucial in this case. We'll be cutting a step here. This will be turned into the frame. We're also going to have to bore a hole through the center. It's actually where the blade is going to sit tight up against it. On the opposite side, this cylinder finished out is going to sit up tight against it. The barrel is going to lock to it, and all of the outside pieces that get engraved that hold the whole sword together, everything comes back
Cool.
to this small round piece.
Yeah, that just definitely sounds important. I'm waiting for the revolver bit, though. See what they do with that. That's just cool.
Working through several grits on a couple different sanders, Matt brings the finish up on the blade. Later, we'll Scotch-Brite and polish it.
Mm-hmm.
going to be making this handle out of a solid piece of steel.
Cool,
I'm
yeah.
using solid only because I've got a 5/8 hole down the center, and I want to be able to have that drawbar have a lot of support where I'm working. It's about 6 inches overall. I'm going to cut it right here on the lathe. So it's going to go 3/4 of an inch, 1 inch, 1.4. It's an organic form, so we're going to sweep in and make that cut. If I was using the taper attachment, it would give me an absolutely straight taper, and that wouldn't be very pleasing to the eye.
That looks pretty cool.
Alright, Carrie's got done turning our handle for our rapier for Ruby. I'm going to go ahead now, clean up all the lathe marks on it. Once I get this done, I'm going to hand it off to Matt so he can add that spiral to the grip.
Mm-hmm. Gotta throw in all that Weiss.
One of the most important parts of this rapier build is the revolving cylinder.
Here we go.
We have to mill this out.
This is what I was
just
waiting
like
for.
C in a revolver with 6 equal holes spaced correctly. Carrie's going to use an indexing machine to move to the CNC to create those holes. This will house our elemental powder that will later shoot out our barrel.
It's crazy how all this stuff comes together. All these tools, drills.
We use this small knife edge wheel for doing detail work. In this case, Matt's going to lay in the spirals that go all the way up this tapered handle.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
What I'm going to be doing now is I've got to drill and hide the spring down inside. It's going to be in line with the firing mechanism that's actually in the backside here. I've put a small drill bit in that hole so that I've got the angle. I'm matching that primarily so that when the spring comes out the other side, it's as high on the hammer as possible, giving us the most power. I'm going to go ahead and cut that in so it cuts in on the angle, and then I'll come back in with a drill once I know it'll go straight from there and go right on in.
No dust rapier is complete without all the dust colors in the chambers of the
Yes,
cylinder.
yes.
So we've already begun to paint some of them in. We're going to take a special lithochrome paint and we're going to fill these areas and finish these off so the Merton Nester has all the dust it needs. We'll start applying the paint.
I guess paint's
to
the
the
easiest
center
way to
of
go
the
there.
area and push it out to the sides as opposed to running the brushes down the sides first. This way we can fill it up and get a nice, even, consistent level as opposed to trying to get in those edges first and have it go over top and have to have extra cleanup.
So now we have our hammer functional, we have our spring in place, the entire piece is put together. The cylinder which sets in here has been painted and engraved. When it closes up,
Oh, wow.
it'll lock it
That's
in
cool.
place. This is a retaining bar that's holding our spring. What we've done to set the power to make sure that we can strike it hard enough is we've shortened this spring over and over again, reached down and pulled it through. It retains the hammer. The hammer is on a pivot that's part of the handle. You can see that's the pivot that holds the hammer. That'll come down, strike our cap, which has the small charge in it, set off the charge in this chamber. The powder, which is inside of the cylinder that rotates for the different colors, is then forced out the end, and that should blow a big buff out right out the front. Drawbar goes down the
I wonder if
center,
that's how Weiss's sword actually
all the way
works.
through. That's what locks the blade in. Everything should function the way we need it to.
So we've done most of the engraving on the cylinder, we've done the painting. Sometimes we have to play hot potato in the builds, pass things back and forth. We still have
Somehow I
one
don't
more
think so.
engraving to do,
I think
so
she
we're
just
gonna
kind of
finish that up now.
puts aura into it and it works somehow.
I knew when we started this build.
Well, there is like a
there
little
was gonna
thing
be lot
there,
of
so
intricate
maybe
parts. Swords from anime and other types of drawings often have parts that just simply don't fit when you create them in the physical world. And it's really
does
great
ha-
how
it does
the
have a
entire
little
shop
hammer.
steps up to make these things happen.
never noticed that. Oh wow. Wow. That is cool. Oh. Okay, we got a Weiss cosplayer. That's nice. Yes. Oh. Oh, you actually... That's really cool. They actually made it functional. That's great. Like, I mean... Yeah, they were explaining that. I just...
Subscribe or click here to watch more episodes. Thanks for watching Man-at-Arms
Wow.
Reforged. We need to know what you want the guys to build, so tell us in the comments.
That
below
was really
what
cool.
weapons you want to see next.
That was really cool. Yeah. That was... It's a lot of work, and it looked really awesome in the end. So, good job. Good stuff. I definitely approve. Yeah, these guys are just really good at what they do, and this was probably one of my favorites yet. Just really impressive work. And I hope they do more Ruby stuff. I'm not really sure what else they could do from Ruby. I mean, you gotta try and make Crescent Rose, I guess, but that's just like so much, just so many moving parts, and it's just like, it's like kind of not just weaponsmithing, that's just, that reaches into other things entirely. And, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Trying to think, would Blake speed any better? Gamble Shroud? Like, I mean, you could probably do the one sword, but the sheath sword probably might be a bit weird. I don't know if that would quite work. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if they really do stuff like Ember Celica. That's not even a sword or a bladed weapon. It's yeah, different. I mean, maybe they do. Yeah, all I've really seen is swords, though, so who knows? And, I mean, if you go beyond Team Ruby, which then you're getting a lot less iconic if you do, but, I mean, obviously there's Jean, and that's just a normal sword, though, unless you want to, like, make the shield, too, and all that stuff. Yeah, there's, well, I guess, I mean, you could do, like, Pyrrha, but that, I mean, her weapon, I don't even really know how that works. It's like a weird one. It's got like a lot to it. And Ren, I mean, I don't think they're gonna make like machine gun blades. That would be weird. I don't think. Yeah. Or Nora. Yeah. But if they do make one of those other weapons, then that would just be like all the more impressive. So I guess we'll see. They did kind of phrase it at the beginning like they were planning to eventually get to more Ruby stuff. But we'll see. We'll see if it happens. This was clearly done like last year because it had stuff from the Weiss character short in it. So, yeah, and the cosplay at the end was her post Volume 4 outfit. So, but with a character short in there, definitely at least during or after Volume 5. I mean, or at least I guess it could have been between the character short and the Volume 5 start. So maybe before Volume 5, but at least within that time frame of last year. At some point late last year, beyond. So we'll see. We'll see what happens now. I kind of hope we do get more Ruby stuff because that was just awesome. Just really cool. Anyway, hope you liked the reaction. Let me know if you did, and see you in the next one.